Welcome back, everybody. Today we're going to get into a video on the Swedish RBS-15 anti-ship missile. This is something I've talked about it in, I think, 3 or 4 other videos, and I've been looking for and asking for videos related to this. I couldn't find one that was not. It didn't have anything to do with Russia, so obviously you can see the title of the video there. I wanted to do a breakdown of the actual weapon, the weapons platform specifically, but this is the best that I could do. I haven't seen this video before. I have no idea what kind of direction it's going to go, but let's jump into it. The Swedish RBS-15.
The Swedish RBS-15 is a nightmare for Russian ships in the Black Sea. When you don't have warships, you can't wage a full-fledged war at sea, the kind of warfare taught in naval academies. But you can't prevent your opponent from waging a full-fledged war. The main thing is to have suitable anti-ship missiles. Breaking the game is the tactics of the Ukrainian Navy against the Russian Black Sea Fleet. As they say, the harder you work, the luckier you get. Breaking the game is probably the new military strategy. Its main discoveries and methods are being worked out in the Black Sea right now, and the Swedish anti-ship missiles RBS-15 can become the main experiment in this strategy. Now you will find out how the drama of the Russian Navy will take place in the Black Sea, and what role the RBS-15 missiles will play in this play. So, Russia actually took the Ukrainian coast and ports into a blockade. It just needs to land troops and capture Odessa and Mykolaiv. However, Ukraine, with very modest opportunities, manages to fetter the actions of the Black Sea Fleet. Several Russian warships have already been disabled, either for a while or permanently, including the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, the cruiser Moskva. Ukraine already has its own Neptune anti-ship systems in service. Plus, Denmark recently supplied American Harpoon systems, and Sweden transferred RBS-17 short-range anti-ship missiles to Ukraine. Now the delivery of RBS-15 is being prepared. When these missiles get to Ukraine, the ships of the Black Sea Fleet will have to return to their base in Sevastopol. But even there, they would not be safe. This is what the coastal defense of Ukraine looks like now. RBS-17 operates at a distance of 5.5 to 6.5 miles. This is an ultra-small defense radius. The version of Harpoon missiles supplied to Ukraine by Denmark has a range of 82 miles. That is, Harpoon protects Ukrainian ports at medium distances. Ukrainian Neptune operates at a distance of up to 174 miles. This is a very good indicator, but on April 15th, the Vyazar plant near Kiev, where Neptune rockets were made, was destroyed by Russian calibers. Due to the lack of Neptunes, the Russians can approach the shores of Ukraine at the distance of Harpoon's range. Therefore, Ukraine urgently needs missiles operating at long approaches. The effectiveness of the RBS-15 is notably higher than all the listed anti-ship missiles. The range of Swedish counterparts exceeds 190 miles. Recall that the distance from Odessa to Sevastopol is 114 miles by sea. And if we talk about the modification of the RBS-15 Gungnir, which is just starting to be produced, then its range is over 620 miles.
Damn.
Now do you understand why Russian admirals have trouble sleeping? Even if RBS-15s of not even the top-end modifications are put on combat duty in Odessa, not only Russian ships in the bays of Sevastopol, but also Russian Bastion coastal missile systems will be under threat. Russia has repeatedly used the Bastion for attacks on Odessa and Mykolaiv. The time has come for retribution. Now you know the situation in the Black Sea, and we can move on to the outstanding performance of the Swedish missiles. The RBS-15 anti-ship missile is manufactured by Saab Bofors Dynamics and Dial BGT Defense.
I know that what a weapon system looks like has absolutely nothing to do with the performance of it. There's a hilarious scene in the movie The Dictator. I don't know if any of you have seen it. It's a ridiculously dumb movie. But there's a hilarious scene in it where basically he's telling his top nuclear scientist that the nuclear missile, or the, the weapon that they're creating for him, needs to be pointy, because pointy is scary, and round will make people laugh. It's actually hilarious. And I think it was Elon Musk said that one of the shapes of one of the rockets they've done was specifically because of the scene in that movie. It was just funny. So I obviously know that it doesn't really have anything to do with it, but the weapon itself looks awesome, right? I mean, you can't tell me it doesn't.
Saab is responsible for the design, while Germany's Dial is responsible for some of the major subsystems and final assembly. Since the 1980s, the RBS-15 has gone through 4 phases of updates and improvements. The result is a universal multi-platform system. In terms of efficiency, the Swedish RBS-15 missiles overtook all competitors, even from the United States. This is shown in the tenders where Harpoon and RBS-15 compete against each other. Already, 7 countries have RBS-15 in service. Ukraine, obviously, will be the 8th. But most importantly, the RBS-15 perfectly bypasses Russian air defense systems. They are simply created in order to sink Russian ships. A little later, you will find out why. The base of RBS-15 is 14.3 feet long. The hull diameter is 1.64 feet, and with the electric tail, 4.6 feet. In flight, the rocket maneuvers with overloads up to 8G. At the bottom of the rocket, there is an air intake for a sustainer turbojet engine with a variable thrust vector. The propulsion compartment includes the engine, rocket boosters, and rudder drives. Blocks with fuel and explosives were
Yeah, that is incredible.
placed in the middle compartment. In the bow is a guidance compartment. The list of precision equipment includes active homing head, GOS, autonomous navigation box with GPS antenna, continuous altimeter, onboard computer, batteries. The high-resolution active radar seeker is considered the main chip of the RBS-15.
Yeah, it's a computer. It's a computer. That's what these modern weapons are. They've just become so crazy. It's basically a computer.
Typically, active radar homing missiles lose their effectiveness as they approach the target, but the Swedes managed to get rid of this shortcoming. The RBS-15 has a unique target selection feature. When the GOS knows what it is looking for, it is very difficult to mislead it with external interference, decoys, and various kinds of reflectors. The missile goes through Russian air defense and missile defense systems like a knife through butter. The characteristics of the radar seeker of the Swedish missile can be changed at the software level. That is, the RBS-15 can literally be customized for specific enemy air defense and missile defense systems. The management program adjustments also allow for rapid adaptation to new threats as they emerge. The software can be updated, supplemented, and tightened, giving the rocket new characteristics. Radar seeker detects and captures targets at longer distances. The size of the target search area does not depend on weather conditions and the speed of the target. The range of the RBS-15 radar is significantly greater than that of the infrared sensor, which is commonly used by other manufacturers of anti-ship missiles. The Swedes preferred radar because the infrared wave is strongly absorbed by the atmosphere. However, along with the locator, radar visibility of the missiles increases. How did the Swedes solve this problem? The fact is that the RBS-15 seeker emits a high-power trembling pulse with a fast frequency change. It's a developer feature. Russian air defense just goes crazy from such a trick. And now, appreciate the sense of humor of the engineers of the Swedish-German alliance. If active and passive interference still prevent the rocket from completing the mission, then RBS-15 activates the homing function to the source of interference. Thus, the Swedish missile can serve as both an anti-ship and anti-radar weapon.
Okay, somebody's gonna have to explain to me how exactly that works on a technical level. I get the general idea of it, but somebody's gonna have to explain to me, like, in depth how that actually works. But that's actually kind of interesting. if there's some sort of issue that comes up that keeps it from completing its task, then it'll refocus on whatever is messing it up. That's actually kind of hilarious.
Amazing versatility. In real conditions, it looks like this. For example, the GOS of the RBS-15 missile has detected a Russian ship and is preparing to hit it. The electronic warfare on board the ship exhibits interference. RBS-15 loses its target, but immediately redirects to the source of interference. As a result, the target is hit. Yes, one hit will not be enough to sink a large warship. However, left without a missile defense or air defense system, any ship turns into an easy target for the following missiles. By jamming, Russian air defense systems simply invite the Swedish missile to visit. Approximately the same scenario can be imagined with RBS-15 missiles attacking boats or ships in the vicinity of Snake Island.
How is this going to be countered? If jamming gives it basically like a beacon, I'm trying to think of how that could possibly be worked around from the opposing side. I mean, you might be stuck with just having to figure out, like, just having to shoot it down. I don't know. What do y'all think? What's the counter move to that tweak of it resighting on wherever the jam or interference is coming from that is supposed to throw it off? What's the next chess move on the other side of that?
Russia seized this Ukrainian island in the Black Sea and placed Panzer anti-aircraft missile and gun systems there. To destroy a mobile ground complex or a boat, one RBS-15 hit will be enough. The flight weight of the RBS-15 is about 1,400 pounds, plus the booster weight is about 350 pounds for the Marine version. These missiles are land, sea, and air-based, so due to the weight of the booster, the total mass of the RBS-15 varies. However, the weight of the warhead remains unchanged for all basing options, 441 pounds. The filling of the warhead is semi-armor piercing fragments. The detonation time is programmed in advance. The rocket can explode directly above the target or after penetrating into the body of the object. The quiet, low-flying rocket RBS-15 has a speed of up to Mach 0.9. When flying above the ground, a rocket uses the curvature of the Earth's surface for an extremely long time until it flies as close to the target as possible. Over the sea, the RBS-15 is capable of literally sea skimming at about 6 feet.
Wow.
It is possible to detect such a low-flying object only after it appears above the horizon.
At 6 feet, that is on the water. That is on the water.
In practice, this amounts to approximately 15 to 25 nautical miles. The enemy has 30 to 60 seconds to repel the attack, but in the case of RBS-15, this is not possible. The fact is that in the final section of the trajectory, the RBS-15 rocket begins to maneuver chaotically. Moreover, these maneuvers are not prescribed in the control program in advance, but are randomly generated by the onboard computer right during the flight. The thrust vectoring engine allows maneuvering at large angles. As a rule, with such maneuvers...
Yeah, this is going to become a much more common thing. You're already hearing it with certain different weapons platforms, but the unpredictable movement in air is going to be, at least in my opinion, it's going to be basically across the board in almost all weapons platforms that are, that are of this nature. And it really just makes sense because if you think about kind of how everybody attempts to shoot these things down, having the option of unpredictable movement it's a big perk on the side of, whoever's shooting it.
Maneuvering, the speed of the rocket decreases, but not in the case of the Swedish RBS-15. The engine settings of this rocket provide instantaneous deceleration compensation. Due to this nuance, the speed of the rocket remains constant and maximum possible, up to a collision with the target. It seems that the military paradigm is changing right before our eyes in the Black Sea. RBS-15s are capable of making half of the Black Sea Fleet of the Russian Federation absolutely useless in this war. A small Ukrainian fleet in the coastal zone and coastal defense challenged the largest maritime power. In fact, such a scenario for the development of events was first described back in the 60s of the last century by Swedish admirals. Then, Sweden could not keep up with the USSR in terms of the size of the fleet, so the Swedes came up with a new strategy: to develop a small fleet and coastal defense, and through them to ensure parity in the Baltic Sea. Now do you understand why the Swedish RBS-15 anti-ship missiles are so good against Russian air defense and missile defense?
Yeah, I'll let it finish and then I'll talk.
However, 60 years later, Ukraine and the Black Sea became the first hotspot in Europe. Who knows, maybe the Baltic will be next. In light of the latest news, this is highly likely. We will follow the development of events, and so subscribe to our channel so as not to miss anything.
Okay, we've obviously talked about the mindset and doctrine of the Swedish Navy and the Swedish Air Force in regards to how they approached the Soviet Union during the Cold War. To be honest, nobody could really compete with the Soviet Union as far as size and manpower and all that. They were kind of, in a world of their own in regards to that stuff. But I've talked about this before. The paradigm of military technology has shifted to such a point that I think the days of essentially bigger or whatever, more quote unquote powerful countries being able to outright take smaller countries that are first world, that are obviously that paradigm changes a little bit if you're going to a country that is not going to have the weapon systems, platforms, any of the defense sector to be able to contend, with you. But I think the days of major countries being able to go in and outright take other smaller major countries is just over. I think it's just over. The weapon systems, the defense capabilities have changed to a point that I think that those days are just behind us now, at least for the time being. This could end up being something like cavalry with World War I, right? Everybody in World War I is like, well, cavalry's dead. It's never coming back. There's no use for cavalry anymore. And you see, it makes sense, because when you look at World War I, you're like, well, golly, even if an army is routed and running away and disorganized, they can still turn around and shoot a machine gun and wipe out, a huge cavalry regiment. And so cavalry becomes kind of useless. But then when World War II comes, you see the military technology increases to a point where cavalry becomes mechanized. And so it's no longer useless. They still can play that same old role that they used to play, and some new roles too, but just not in the same way. So that may happen in this case, but from where I sit right now, it is my opinion that I think those days of smaller countries being able to be outright taken by bigger countries, I think those days are just over. And honestly, I feel like that's probably a good thing for overall global stability. I think that's probably the best, the best case scenario. So, okay, that was the Swedish RBS-15. Good video that, it had some interesting stuff in there. And I've been looking for an RBS-15 video for forever now. I'm going out of town in just a little bit. I'm going to do a couple of videos while I'm gone. One is going to be over the firearms that are out there at my parents' place. Just kind of I talked about this last video, a little bit of a show and tell sort of thing. They're rural folk, so they live out in the country, and it's pretty common for country folk out here to have a handful of different firearms. So I'm going to do that, and I'll get to a couple other videos. I want to do something Christmas related for Christmas, so maybe something about the Christmas truce or something along those lines. I'm not really sure yet, but As always, like, comment, subscribe. Merry Christmas to everybody, and I will see you all in the next video.